everyone. Welcome back to A Cosmic Cuppa with Jude, with our cuppas at the ready. Tonight, I would love to introduce you to a beautiful soul called Lani Calkin. Lani, how are you today?
I'm great, thank you, Jude, and it's lovely to be here and meet new family and friends.
Certainly is. Well, thank you for taking time out. And I hear you're in the middle of, or just have had, a storm. What's happening up where you are in Auckland?
It's been incredible. Apparently, the Met Service says Auckland is past the heavy gale force winds, but there was horizontal rain, horizontal hail all out round me, and I believe the Harbour Bridge was going to be down to one lane, possibly closed, but I don't watch a lot of the news, so I just experience it here. Yes.
Fascinating. Horizontal rain. How interesting. Well, I
Yes.
hope you're okay and you're going to be safe, and I'm sure you will be.
I'm sure I will be as well. Thank you.
And we pray for a good connection.
Indeed. For all
Lani,
of us. All of us.
yes, I'll read out your beautiful bio. So Lani has been channeling energy and information through the Omega Communications Portal since 1988 and has committed herself to this for the purpose of helping people through her abilities. It has been and is the core essence of her life. She says, my dad's side of the family have a strong connection to the metaphysical world. The family tree so far traces back to gypsies. And when I began searching for energy and information, my dad had some books which helped to recognize help from other realms. My family were introduced to a trance medium healer for help after I was diagnosed with rheumatoid arthritis at 9 years old. And a change in diet, cod liver oil, cell salts. After 6 months of this, together with healing through my dad, the specialist was amazed to see the difference in me. The exposure to spiritual energy healing from when I was 9 and 10 years old awakened me to higher levels of consciousness and helped me to activate clairvoyance and channeling energy and information from other levels of consciousness to help raise the frequency of people and the planet. I lived in Taupo for the first 32 years of my life, which was great because the Tauhara Centre was established and I attended some interesting groups there. I left Taupo and my job with the local council because I wanted to only work part-time and devote more time to my spiritual work. I went to live in New South Wales for 6 months with a friend who was wanting to set up an old coach inn as a retreat centre. So I had time to tune in until I felt to come back to New Zealand and live in Auckland. It was during a time in about 1987 when I was attending an Infinite Way Joel Goldsmith group, when my higher self guides told me to start my own group and record the sessions because there was information to come forward which would help people. Then I had a vision of having a home and people coming for help. The home is an octagon. I like the shape, although I did want to have a dome home or an A-frame home. And I was shown a symbol for my Omega group, which is the pyramid within a sphere, with energy flowing through it, meaning consciousness rising to universal oneness and energy flowing throughout all. I attended many groups and courses, chakra energy, transcendental meditation, pulsing Reiki, New Zealand Federation of Spiritual Healers, Infinite Way groups, created my own set of flower essences, hypnosis techniques training, and techniques of many types, but was guided to create a meditation group and was told to record the messages because they would help other people. The urge to help people has been a strong impulse in my life, giving rise to changes in life relationship patterns. Joining the internet in 1996 was the perfect opportunity to link with people worldwide in the expansion of energy around this planet and beyond. As well as bringing the energy messages through to people to help raise their vibration in weekly messages, my focus is also on healing, using energy and clearing experiences from the past, either this life or beyond, which may be affecting people now in the PEMF, personal energy multidimensional field. I've not heard that expression before, but it makes perfect sense. In their sessions, remotely through linking in with the person through a photograph, during which I link with the person's high evolved self and interdimensional support team and energy to bring the person back into balance and connection to the source cosmic energy systems. I also incorporated in personal sessions prior to 2020 the use of a pulsed electromagnetic field device, which works at a wonderful calming effect of about 7.5 hertz. And later, scalar field technology was added to the unit, which is a field of intention and known to be part of energy coming through the sun. So intention is everything. Lani, that was such a beautiful bio, and you're doing amazing things. I would love to start with, what was life like for you growing up? Can you talk about your family's connection to the gypsies and your spiritual links with your genealogical lineage?
Well, there's several facets involved in that, isn't there? But life growing
Whatever
up,
comes to mind, whatever's more important.
well, growing up in Taupo, which was really, 2,000 people approximately, hard-working parents who were quite separate. My mother was from a family that were very, didn't really believe in anything but a strong intention. And Dad's family and his mum and siblings, they all had turned to spiritual healing in some way or another. But the background, my daughter's done a lot of the genealogy, and she says the family and the names do go back to gypsy time. I don't know anything about those ones, but I do know, coming back closer to this generation and my dad's aunt, his mum's aunt got very much involved in healing with herbs with some of the local people here and hands-on healing. But we didn't hear much about her successes, but she was jailed actually for treating some people unsuccessfully, apparently. But you see, what is success? We think healing is going to be everything and completely healed on every level, but we have to go behind things into the experience. So anyway, that was only one facet, but the progress I made receiving hands-on healing myself must have triggered something in me, to the extent that when I was starting to meditate and have my own group, I remembered something which happened when I was a child, around about 6 or 7 years old. Our section we had unsealed roads, long drop toilet. Most of us will be familiar with this upbringing. And there were pine trees on our section and the next door section that I used to play with. I've got a photograph of me. But I also had, as most of us did, an invisible friend. And I would play with her. It was as if she could show me these round bubbles, coloured bubbles of born or energy. And I'd play around with these without knowing what I was doing. And then one time it was as if something materialised around me, and I looked out round windows, what seemed like round windows, and all I could see was stars and different screens in front of me. And one of these spirit ladies, energy beings, who was playing with these balls with me, started to speak with me. And she said, I was part of a system to bring energy back into Earth. And now I understand it's sort of correcting the timeline. It would be helping people, it would be helping the planet as we know it today, generally. And then she said I would forget most of this until the time was right. And, at 7 years old, it didn't really make much sense. And so I went on to live my life, creating all sorts of experiences for myself. And on the way, that's when I started to know about things that were going to happen. And that's when I ventured into many of these training methods to explore. And through most of them, still within my heart and soul, I felt there's something more. They're only going to a certain level. And I was a bit confused about this, and I thought, is that because I'm too lazy to learn? But I had to pursue it, start my own group and trust what I was hearing and bring it through, instead of saying at the start, well, there's this copper being who's appeared and he's telling us this and this and this. So it took me a while to trust what was coming through. And it was just a series of meeting with people. As I said in that bio, there was books my father had really based on the Native American philosophies and teachings, but it was all inspirational. And we all need the inspiration to go to a higher level, explore beyond our boundaries of our mind or conditioning or training. And I'm sure we all here have done amazing training, following wonderful teachings. But remember, they're only steps along the way. And we can now access a higher field. The cosmic intelligence systems is how it comes to me now. And in the quantum field of consciousness. Now, I've diverged already from your questions.
It's quite all right. It's beautiful. I love what you're saying. What I'm hearing is that this is very real, as we know it is.
Yes.
You had very, very deep insights, and thank you for a beautiful start to our beautiful Cosmic Cuppa. That was beautifully said. Would you like to tell us your little story about the tall lady you saw in vision when you were young that came from the future to visit the young you?
Well, that's really interesting, because at the time, and when I remembered this and wrote it down, it was as if she was like a guide, a being perhaps from a different planet. I didn't know, but she was just tall. And I asked her what her name was. And she said the names didn't matter. They were like hats that people wore. It was the energy that they were bringing through that was important, and to remember that. So in a way, I often don't get names, particularly if we're speaking with a being from a different dimension or galaxy or reality. They have a different way of pronouncing words. So I've never bothered too much about those until the ones would speak directly through me in my weekly group meetings. Now, the tall lady, I have come to realise, was actually me now, and I was from the future going back to help her, the little me.
That's
And
beautiful.
it's interesting because this can happen to many of us, where we get stuck on some experience in our childhood. And this is a basic technique really of regression work as well, where the higher aspect of self, the higher evolved consciousness, will go back to love and support the younger version and encourage them. And most of us haven't felt the true love. We know what human love is, and if we have someone who really loves us and it makes us feel good. But there's a deeper connection often that many of us miss. And we haven't really found that deeper connection from soul. But when we now connect to our true point of origin and our soul, and we work from that level, we can go back and give that loving support to ourselves at whatever age. And it's interesting because often as young people, we don't understand really what's going on. And maybe we blame ourselves, or maybe we feel nobody loved me. Didn't really feel that love and support that we'd felt before we entered into the body form. So there's so much tied up in helping people reconnect to their true selves, point of origin, as I call it. And that's an interesting phrase, isn't it? Because we all might be thinking, what does she mean? What's the point of origin? Oh, is that God? But it's not defined in words again. It's a sense. I'm sure those of you listening would understand the sense of our point of origin from a soul aspect when we came in. So, and so, yes, tall lady was evidently me from the current expansion of consciousness, maybe, or what I feel now, going back to help myself.
That's really beautiful, Lani. And I know a lot of us have probably worked on the inner child and working with that small inner child, coming to her in vision and saying how much you are loved,
Yes,
and absorbing the inner child to grow up to who we are now.
yes,
But you saw your future self as this tall lady that came to you. How beautiful that you had that experience.
yes.
To give comfort, I assume, and showing love.
And encouragement, a
Oh,
bit of direction, because there's always been this impulse in me to help others. We know that, don't we, all of us? And so it was like the seeds were sown then to help me get through the other experiences in life.
that's beautiful.
Yeah, so
Beautiful. How exciting. Had that. How wonderful. And you were obviously ready and open and of a frequency to see, hear, and understand. Maybe
yeah,
not who she was, but what she was bringing at that time.
yes, she was someone I trusted.
Beautiful.
But I could trust her. So that's another interesting thing, isn't it? Do we trust
Yes,
ourselves?
yes. Very good question.
Yes.
Would you like to talk about what happened at the age 9 and 10 when you were drawn into your own awakening of your deeper awareness, being able to channel from other levels of consciousness and develop states of clairvoyance? What was that like for you, Lani? What was happening around that time?
Well, that was when I had that medical diagnosis. And just after my 10th birthday in the school holidays, I was in hospital for 6 months. And my parents were advised to go on holiday. Obviously, they were stressed. And I didn't know about that, of course. was all about me. So I went through physical therapy and quite alone in that area. But after that, that was when we were introduced to this trance medium healer, and my family got involved with that, participating in it in a big way. And it was during one of the sessions where the medium would go into trance, transfiguration. He had no idea what he was saying. And there were several beings came through to him with philosophy, healing for various people who were present in the circle. And he had his own little church in New Plymouth. And I was listening to one of the mediums, clairvoyance, on the platform there. And I had this very strong knowing and vision that I would be doing that sort of work. So then I may have been about 12 or 14. And again, I had no idea how that would happen. I just knew sometimes when something was going to happen, just fleeting glimpses, didn't know what to do with it. And then the Tauhara Centre thing at Taupo, I started going to courses there and met some wonderful beings and teachings there, and started to move more deeply into following different things. Went to, found some friends in a spiritual development circle, and one of my friends there, she was a medium as well and would channel, I remember it as philosophy from a Native American being. And that also inspired me. They gave me the name of a guide and encouraged me to write down messages, and it all started to evolve from there. I think I was a hard learner, a slow learner, and so I had to go through some life-changing experiences, marriage breakup and so forth, and leave my hometown and travelled to a friend's place in New South Wales. And I'd met that friend at the Tauhara Centre. And she wanted to start her own centre in this old coach house in a little village called Metaphysical. And I went and stayed there for 6 months and did a lot of inner work. She helped me, encouraged me to trust what I was seeing. And some other friends we'd met from Tauhara Centre travelled there for a time as well. So it was exploring, tuning in, getting messages, going deeply into meditation and writing the results down. And it was one of those meditations that I was drawn into a desert scene. It was like a desert with an oasis, but we were away from the oasis, and there was this guide, and I remember travelling on the back of a camel in my vision, and he lit this fire, and we sat down opposite, and we waited, and this happened for several nights until I became aware that there was like a vessel had appeared in the sky overhead, and I was somehow drawn up into that vessel. And that was really the start of the work I'm doing now, with a connection with, shall we say, cosmic beings, intergalactic beings. I don't remember them, but it was very much a triggering point. And they gave me the idea that it would still be several years before I'd be confident enough to share the messages. So yes, indeed. So that was about mid-80s. And a short while after that, I chose to come back to live in Auckland with family and develop in my own way. Just following the inner guidance that we all do, the impulses. They say the stars, they can impel you, like your horoscope, or the stars can impel you, give you impulses to follow. They can't compel you, they can't make you do anything. It's your choice, your free will. So it's all about following the impulses. And we're learning to do that more and more, aren't we?
I think, yes, if we're following the impulses, we know we're on track. And I know at times I have and at times I haven't.
Mm,
But I'm learning to more and more because things happen when you follow those impulses.
yes,
Absolutely do. And often they can be huge shifts. I
yes.
was thinking about going overseas in 2020, and
Right,
in 2019, I had the impulse to go now. Didn't
yes.
know where I was going, but I landed up going overseas that year, and it
Right.
wouldn't have happened in 2020. So,
Mm,
working on the impulses is so important,
it
isn't
is.
it?
Yes,
And
yes.
it's quite
Fascinating.
interesting, Lani, with a lot of my lovely guests, they answer the next question on my sheet. So you have done just that so beautifully on Taupo with Tauhara and New South Wales. So
Right.
you were
Yes,
talking
yes.
about campfire. Was that the same story that you mentioned to me
Yes,
about the campfire?
yes,
Yeah,
yes.
which was lovely. That was beautiful.
It was like being led
Could
there.
you speak
Just
about
sit, you just sit and allow what happens, just tuning into the universe.
Yes,
Yeah, right.
yes, fabulous. Do
Yeah.
you have an idea who the beings are you interact with? What dimensional realm they are in? And do you have a name for them as a group?
Um, they prefer to say they represent collective consciousness, and the main one who's been coming in for several years has given the name of Orem, Orem. And there's a female named Yulia who is more feminine, and some of the people who came to my group at that time felt that she was an aspect of me. I don't know, she's just softer, she's a bit more feminine. I have a distant memory at some point they inferred that Orem had an existence in the Andromedan galaxy, and I seem to gravitate to that. But I haven't explored it because I don't want to put any limitations on what comes through. And they say,
Absolutely
again,
not.
we've all had lives and experiences on all sorts of planets. So don't get hung up on a particular area. It's the same as wherever we live in the world, whatever country, whatever city, there are areas that you might say there are a lower layer of consciousness, the way people act, but that you can be classed, oh, if you live out there, you're that type of person. So it's like that's what they say. Don't get hung up on certain areas. Follow the information and the energy. And the energy and what is presented will tell you if it's truth, if it inspires you or if it leads you down a false track. And many of us have been diverted down different tracks, different pathways in
Yes.
life, generally, in the
And
civilization.
how interesting they decide to come here to a very distorted time frame.
Well,
To
it's very
I
important.
understand that, but they're quite
Yeah,
brave doing that too, aren't they?
yes. They don't say they are present in body. They're observing. They're helping those of us who are open to the frequency to clear ourselves and thereby expand our consciousness field. And in that way, they're helping the population who are ready in our little biosphere. I keep coming back to that.
Yeah.
I laugh about it because it's such a beautiful symbol, because I've been looking at these people who make gardens in jars, terrariums, a
Yes.
closed environment with its
Yes.
own water, creatures, plants, air, and the only external thing is light that comes in, or intention from who's observing it.
Yes, yes.
So
I've been
it's,
to the Eden Project in England where they
oh,
have biospheres. It's what it reminded me of. But really the Earth is a biosphere in itself too, isn't it?
that's what they're saying. We have to be aware of how wonderful it is. Of course, I know there are people who will say, oh yes, but Earth is an experiment. Well, I choose not to get tied up in that. I choose not to get tied up in warfare and fighting for things, because fighting perpetuates you on the same level. You're fighting. So for me, I've always been inspired to go to the higher level. So that's what I
Absolutely.
do.
I'm with you on that one.
Yes,
Absolutely. I
yeah,
think the inner work is often more important than the outer, although both have their place. Yeah.
yes,
Would
yes.
you like to speak about a time in 1987 when you attended an Infinite Way group with Joel Goldsmith and you were then guided to open your own group, which you have briefly mentioned? What was happening at that time and how did that transpire?
Well, I was led to these teachings. Again, it goes back to someone I met who was part of the people who ran Tauhara Centre. And that was based on people who worked or came from Findhorn, who were the originating people from Findhorn. There was a couple who came out to New Zealand. Anyway, this particular woman, beautiful soul, she and her husband, and she talked about the Infinite Way group. Well, when I was in Auckland and I was moving every 6 months from rented property to house sharing and house sitting, I found this group across the North Shore from where I am. And I'd go there and there was an interesting couple. They would play a tape recording of one of Joel Goldsmith's teachings, pure consciousness. I don't remember any of it, but it was a high level of consciousness again. And so there might be a 20-minute, 30-minute tape recording. And then they said, have some water or orange juice. Please do not converse to each other. Do not talk. Take what you've received and go home. So I attended many of those sessions and got quite inspired and refreshed, I think, until one night I couldn't go. I was quite ill, quite unwell. And tuning in for hearing for myself, I got the message, yes, get the message, start your own group. I was house sitting, house minding at that time. So I got myself well and put a little notice in a local health food store, and a few people came, and I was told to record what I was receiving. So that was the start, 87, 88, all of that. And during that time also in meditation, I was guided to go to a group. Someone must have known me and they wanted me to go to a group and do readings for people and a meditation. And on the way back from there, I stopped at a cafe and I had the vision to buy some land and start my own centre. And it was based on that particular cafe at the top of, if people know Auckland, is a hill called the Bombay Hill before you get on the motorway to come into Auckland City. And that was either six-sided or, I think it was six-sided. The meditation centre at Tauhara, they had this chamber and that was 6 or 8-sided as well. And so I was inspired and I found an architect who designed this octagon for me to live in. And my vision of it was to have a centre, have a small fountain outside and people would come. And Lee, who's listening, part of this group, she and another friend helped collect rocks and to expand my energy for this meditation chamber and do beautiful carvings, and really assisted me in this group. And the other friend dug a hole for a pond with a water feature. And so my vision came to pass.
That's wonderful. That is wonderful.
Yeah. And this house with an octagon, most octagons have a centre pole to support the roof. Well, the engineer wanted it to be open and the 8 panels meet up in the ceiling. And with the help of a council engineer, it's an 8-sided cross up there. A star, I would prefer to call it a star, holding it all together. So it's just,
That's
it's just
amazing.
lovely
There's
energy.
something also, yes, there's something about shape
Yes.
that's so important. And today, as we know, most people are in square boxes.
Yes.
I remember having a dream many years ago, which I still remember, where I had a home that was hexagonal, but every room was a hexagon, with the rooms around the outside of it, and the centre one was taller, and it was a glass-like substance that you could see out but not in.
Yeah.
And that was my home.
Wow.
And I thought, wow, maybe this is where I'll be one day. Who knows? But
Who
that's
knows?
lovely, Lani, to have a centre built on an octagon or a hexagon.
Yeah.
Is pretty profound when you think of the energies that are built up and the harmonizing within that space.
Yes. Yes, I feel it was important to be here. But you know how we go through phases of clearing our space, clearing our energy field of all the old patterns. The land I'm on, it was bought by the government at the time, post-war. So in the 1950s, there were a lot of state houses built to house people after the war. And the land I'm on, it was a big section, quarter-acre sections, I think they were called. And the existing house still exists on the front, on the roadside, and I'm at the rear, hidden from sight from the road. And the street is named after one of the building companies. And a few years ago, I had a knock on the door. It was round about a Christmas New Year break. And the woman said, "Oh, I'm the daughter of the man the street's named after." And she said, we had a life-turning experience, she and her boyfriend, who nearly passed, and I think she tuned in and called in energy to correct whatever was wrong. And she felt inspired to set up some sort of community house or community centre. And she knew about this street. She looked online at maps and she saw there was empty land next to my section. And she came to view the site and she wanted to see if she could establish a place on that empty block of land. Well, actually, it's a gully. It can't be built on. So I brought her in and told her about this sort of centre. So it was destined to have some significance here, to be built in this area. And now, all across the other side of the road, there's been about 15 houses taken away or demolished, and a reserve is being built with lots of native trees, a stream to be developed, a playground area, quite a large area. And on my western boundary, a house was demolished. On the southern boundary, 2 houses have been taken away. So talk about clearing my space. So I'm not sure.
I'll say someone's been at work.
Yeah, I don't know about the next step, but at the moment, here I am.
wonderful. How about that? So you're
So
creating a reserve, which is brilliant.
yes, for more people to use. So yes, there's different things happening, regardless of how long I will be here for.
Yeah.
Yes,
Would
yeah,
you like to talk about the Omega Communications portal and your participation in channeling energy and information through? I'd be delighted to hear about that.
yes. Excuse me. I've been talking a lot.
Please have a drink. Take your time.
Yes, that started while before I had the vision to build my home. And I had a group coming to me in the house sharing situation, and I felt I needed a name. And I'd also felt to transcribe the messages I was getting. They were quite inspirational, inspiring us to focus on a higher level, don't stress out about things, don't engage in conflict, all sorts of things. And so I tuned in and asked for a name. And I think the symbol came forward first, as a line diagram, a circle with a triangle inside it. But I knew it was like a pyramid inside it, a sacred shape, and it could even have been a double-ended, upside down. So then I knew that energy was flowing throughout that, and it symbolized raising our consciousness above what was going on here into higher realms. And then the name came Omega. So it was Omega portal for receiving things. And it was an access way. And people can use that symbol to imagine that you'd stepped into it to access higher energy systems. Quantum field, cosmic energy could be used as a gateway, a portal, in fact.
Oh, that's
So,
fascinating.
so
So,
that's
so anyone could use that, Lani.
yes. And of course, I queried what I was receiving. I thought, is this true? Could this be misused? Like many things can be misused in a way, even electricity can be. So I was told it was like there were inbuilt safeguards, if you like. That's not quite the word, but people wouldn't go anywhere because the energy would be of a frequency that they would not be able to understand or handle. So it's all about frequency. Shapes are a frequency, energy.
That's
Yeah.
brilliant.
So it just
Talk,
evolved. Yeah, evolved continuously.
I can imagine. You
Yes.
talk about the cosmic field, the pure principle of creation,
Yeah.
and the quantum field of consciousness. You also talk about cosmic intelligence. Would you like to share your insights and understanding on a cosmic cuppa of these cosmic understandings, please?
Well, we are always more than we think we are. And it's accessing this level of consciousness that exists beyond Earth. It's a quantum field. Now, in the center of it, we think of, well, where did creation, who or what was creation? What was the spark of life? And scientists, quantum theorists, quantum physicists have gone in depth into this. So I'm not a scientist in any way, shape, or form. I'm just following the intuitive aspect and the words. They often use words that take us beyond our limitations, definitions. So they want it to be more open. They want us to realize there's this quantum field that we can access that has the potential for us to manifest and to be truly who we are. So they've all the time expanded, changed words a little bit in the years I've been bringing this information through, little bits more and more, so we understand the vibration that comes through the patterns of the words. And even the words cosmic energy, it sort of takes us further out there, beyond what we know. And there's always more than what we know intellectually. There's probably even more than what we know intuitively, because we're stepping into different dimensions. People talk about, the fifth dimension and higher and beyond that. And so those are almost like our starting points. This group, the 5D and beyond, is like even a vast stepping stone into something more quantum. And as I said in a session today with somebody, we're taught to feel the sun. Stay out of the sun. You'll be burnt, you'll get this, this will happen. But we absolutely need the light, the rays, and the beings in the Omega group have been saying it's a portal for energy to come through it to us. And when we think about our sun and around our particular galaxy, and we know there are other galaxies with a central sun, it's all connected in this cosmic field, a huge matrix that's changing and shifting. And in a sense, it feels as if it's realigning us. And I remember many years ago, there was a bit in one of the sessions about Earth is actually moving into a different position, a different alignment. And I thought, this is a bit, unusual. Shifting in consciousness again, but shifting in actual position. And then I had an email from a scientist working at an observatory in Ireland somewhere, and he said, you're absolutely right. We know as scientists that Earth is shifting. So that was interesting. And it's shifting more and more, but so are we. It's as if we're only just now coming alive. You might have a sense of that we feel as if some people say to me, well, I've never really felt truly here. I've never felt truly awake. And this is because we're part of this quantum shift. And the light we're receiving currently is assisting us in a quantum field, shifting us into repositioning. And I can go on further than this. It's quite interesting because I'm seeing people literally being realigned from about the moment of birth. At the moment of birth, when we're severed from the bloodline of mum, of parenthood, of ancestors, we take in a lot of accumulated information and disturbances and intentional manipulation through the bloodline that has happened over generations. When we're severed from that, at that moment, our silver cord, our spiritual cord, is connected more strongly. And at the moment, the energy coming through the cosmic intelligence that understands what the humanoid being should be, comes more into the reality. It's like we're being detached from a contaminated civilization and ancestry and multi-civilizations, we're being detached from that. The blood is being purified, and we are being purified from that moment of reconnection spiritually. We never lose that connection, only until we die, when people have literally seen the spirit body move out of the physical body. And it's as if it's attached with this cord. So when the body has served its purpose, the soul leaves the body. It's a different way of looking at things. And but as part of that, we're connected to this cosmic energy, and it's like an infusion of light to correct the contaminated, the distortions that we took on through the bloodline. Now, this is huge. This is what we talk about, the quantum intelligent field, that understands why we're here, why we chose to come in at this time and to awaken. And so the information that has been coming through, and it feels right to me, but it's still open to question and curiosity, but it feels like we're being born again, we're being given an energy infusion. Like perhaps all of us tuning in here would say, I actually do feel more alive than I've felt for a long time. And now the interesting thing that is also coming through to people in the personal sessions, as well as this cleansing of the bloodline, it's cleansing us and it's cleansing our descendants. And this is huge. And even more than that, now this is stretching the consciousness field again, it can be going into the blood of all of the humans on the planet at the moment. It's just incredible if we open our consciousness to this possibility. And I see it happening in people, so it's real.
This is fascinating, Lani. One of the questions I had was about cleansing the blood, the
Yes.
bloodlines, and how it's accomplished. So this is fascinating. So you're saying that when people are cleansing their own bloodlines through this shift in consciousness,
Yes.
it actually will be happening collectively for all of humanity on the planet.
Yes.
That is fascinating.
When we think about it of just one person of us individually, and we don't know, well, some of us who've done genealogy will know the number of ancestors and descendants and all of that big circle. So even physically it can go through that, but energetically we're all connected. And you think of what's been contaminating our bloodline in the last 3 or 4 years. And before that, of course, with other attempts to limit or control us, all of that can be decontaminated.
Wow. That's amazing. And I think a lot of people are going to love hearing this amazing, it's more than intel, but I'll put that word on it for want of a better one at the moment.
Yes.
That is incredible news to think
Yes.
that the whole planet of humanity can be cleared through this shift, the shift in focus, the shift in energy.
Yes.
That is absolutely remarkable.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that.
Oh, well, it must be time for it to come out. Otherwise, I would not have felt to talk about it. And I know that happens. It just doesn't come up in the conversation. You needed to ask the question, and I'm already talking about it.
Yes. But this
It's
is exciting, Lani. This is what I
yes,
find, and hopefully our guests will find exciting. It's
yes,
pushing our boundaries of understanding more and more and more. And a lot of us here have done a lot of work, a lot of inner
yes,
work. But it's
Yes.
the more we learn, more power to the people, and more we
Yes.
can understand at deeper levels and more expansive levels, at more cosmic levels, what's happening. You know, we're
Yes.
also moving through the photonic belt in a different area now where we're moving through. And that has an effect on us as well, because it's a
Yes.
higher frequency energy area.
Yes. Yes.
And it
Again.
all participates. And I feel we have been in the dark ages manipulated to be there after the fall of man as such, from
Yes.
fourth dimensional to third. And now we're starting, hopefully, to creep back up again to fourth
Yes.
and then fifth.
Yes.
How do you see that? Does that resonate with you?
Well, yes, and they tell us that they're not distinct, they overlap, and it depends on our frequency of what area we will connect with.
That
And
makes sense.
the frequencies are like wavelengths and they change. It's like tuning into a different station in the old radio times. And before this, see, all of this blood work, bloodline work has been coming through this year and late last year, maybe starting about October, November, a little bit. But before that, it was individually working with people, and they would be given the energy around them, especially I saw it as blood, would be drawn out into a clear ball-like chamber, and it was a filtering device in the cosmic field, in the what do we call it, the dimensional, extra dimensional field, and it would be filtered. And I'd often see chemicals and toxins and metallic things being drawn out, filtered out, and then pure sparkling energy infused back into the person. And the
Wow.
feedback would be, oh gosh, I feel lighter, I feel different, you know. But some people feel so different, they don't give me feedback. They forget to tell me because they've shifted in a consciousness. So the blood cleansing started in my awareness back then. And then, of course, we had all the talk about med beds, physical med beds being coming in, and probably who would have access to those and all sorts of things. And yet it happens if you can raise your frequency and go into the cosmic field, the higher dimensional frequencies, it's all available there.
So
So
for people, Lani, would this be happening in their sleep state when they are out of their bodies, or is it happening, or how is it happening? Maybe if I word it that way.
some people, indeed, I feel it would happen in their sleep state. Some people feel, oh, I went somewhere and there was this big meeting, or I felt I was being treated in some way. So it could happen like that. It can happen in our daydream state, in our states of consciousness, if we go into states of theta and where we go into a trance-like state and we're consciously aware. I think that's much more powerful when we're consciously aware of what's happening. So that's not always easy for people. We get distracted, and sometimes we need help to do that. And I think that was what fascinated me about doing hypnosis work, quantum, in the quantum consciousness again, different fields of consciousness in different ways to help people access that state where maybe you called on the subconscious or the higher self to come in and scan the body and do the work. Well, now we're doing that in a different way. We're facilitating it in a different way for people, for it to happen in a shorter time period. Most of the old ways of working in regression work, you'd have to be there for several hours and go through the process, and quite lengthy. I don't feel it needs to be that lengthy. We've shifted in consciousness. We're much more aware. And even some people have difficulty going into a trance state in a hypnotic regression, simply because we're more aware. So that's interesting too, how we're
Fascinating,
able to
Lani. And
yeah.
my next question, interestingly enough, my lovely, was around meditation.
Right, right.
Meditation is a wonderful way to reach a state of peace, bliss, and a doorway to other realms, as you've been talking about.
Yes.
Would you care to talk about your meditation group, how that has evolved and developed over time, please?
Well, yes, it started simply like a guided meditation. I would have people sit, close their eyes, just breathe and relax, and now do a visualization. Traditionally, many visualizations that we've done that help tremendously. And it's a wonderful technique to get people out of everyday thoughts, everyday experiences, especially if they've had to drive somewhere and all the traffic was awful or whatever. Couldn't find the place, where do I park, etc., etc. We can go, backtracking to the group, it evolved now that the energy gets set up. A particular group has its own energy. So the energy field, when people step into the group gathering, there's already a raised frequency. So it's easier to access. So my group evolved when people came, and at one stage I had 26 people in my little house, and it was simply closing your eyes, taking a breath, and I would just help people to relax a little bit and then allow my consciousness to step back and allow the words to flow. So, and trust that. It took me a long while to trust that. But meditation doesn't always have to be to allow a different consciousness to speak, does it? It can be simply going into a different state of consciousness where you're open to the rhythms of the universe, you're open to experience the sounds of earth in a different way. The sounds of a stream, the sounds of a bird can draw you into an altered state of consciousness. And in that state, the mind settles and the body settles. And I think they are all measurable states if you have the right instrumentation to measure the brainwave state. But
Definitely.
the energy field, and it's so necessary to put ourselves into that receptive state to access this higher energy field, the cosmic frequency pattern, and allow that cosmic conscious intelligence really to flow in. And it's not just intelligence gathering like we talk about governmental bodies. So that's why it's called quantum or cosmic.
Love it. Because
Yeah.
quantum is an energy field of information,
Yes. Yes.
amongst other things.
For
You
sure.
have your own practice, Lani. Would you care to talk about your healing work, how you bring clients into a deeper clarity of who they are and help in their healing process? I'd love to hear about that.
Okay. Well, it's interesting because people would reach out to me for different reasons. They might reach out for a troubled relationship. They might reach out because something in the body hasn't healed properly. They might think they're carrying some stress and trauma from some period. So I have to take that into account. And before lockdown areas, people would come to me for a session. And I would use sometimes a pulsed electromagnetic field or scalar field device to help the energy field calm down to start with. But I would tune in because I would say I can see the effect of the energy moving in your body and around you. And I would describe it simply as, we don't see wind, but we see the effect of wind blowing trees or whatever, leaves and trees. So I said, that's the sort of thing I'm talking about. I see the energy and it's natural, so it's nothing to be concerned about. And I would have, of course, before they came, connect into my higher field consciousness to access the truth, whatever was needed for the person. And then I would connect with the person. I ask them to just breathe naturally and easily. Breathing is natural. Don't force it. You don't have to count. You don't have to hold it. You don't have to sit cross-legged. You just be relaxed and easy. And the breath will open you up. And then I'll tell them I'm connecting to their very higher self that loves them, that knows everything about them. And then the energy flows and I tell them what's happening. And so some of the things I see might go to what they've come to me for. It might go back to something that happened in earlier years, might go back to a different life pattern. It's different for everybody and how receptive they are. So it's just a process. And my whole aim, really, everything I do is to help people reconnect to their true self, their higher self, their purpose for being here.
That's
And
beautiful. You
the
couldn't
cosmic
be doing
field.
anything greater, Lani. That's absolutely beautiful.
Well, we all do it in our own way. And it's just simply, this is the way that I've developed. I've followed other ways. I've tried it. I forget the name of a person, a book I was reading, and I thought, I'll follow her method for this person who came. Well, I didn't feel it had achieved much. The person, I think, got a little bit from it, and then off she went. And as she went down the pathway, my inner voice said to me, now sit down and do the healing. In other words, come back in, tune in to the way and send it out to her, do the healing.
It's like the song I Did It My Way.
Yeah.
And we're all unique individuals with different
Yes,
downloads of information. And I think it's good to learn from others. But if you have
yes,
your own technique that grows in a way that is so holistic and so real and uplifting and works, that's the
yes,
best way for that person to be using
yes,
it.
yes. I mean, in different ways, I've had people come for, I had a builder come and he had a knee problem, quite a serious knee problem. So I tuned in for him and saw energy going all sorts of ways and to his knee. And his wife was with him. So I was, telling him what was going on. And then he sort of felt different and that was interesting. And off he drove. And he came back next week for another session. And he said to me, I have to tell you, my knee felt better. But apart from that, I jumped in the car and I looked over my shoulder and I backed down your driveway. He said, I haven't been able to turn my neck. What happened?
Wow.
and I could turn my neck quite naturally, and I haven't been able to do that.
Oh my goodness. That's
You
amazing, Lani.
little
So
thing.
you and your team are they're working miracles, which is so beautiful.
Yeah. Oh, thank you. Yes.
You use your beautiful skills to allow a client to move further along their own journey,
Yes.
inwardly and outwardly, as you've just said. Can
Yes.
you talk about the healing you offer with energy and clearing distortions from the past, either in this life or beyond, which may be affecting them now in the PEMF, personal energy, multidimensional field. That's a mouthful, isn't it? But you know what we mean.
Yes.
And the importance of calling in the higher self aspect, which you have touched on.
Yes, that always comes into every session, and it usually comes in some way to say, well, this is you healing you. You've brought all of this energy in to heal you. So there are many things. For example, one woman wanted to know, every time she tried to help people in some way, she injured herself physically. For example, she was driving somewhere in the country and she saw someone had come off one of these farm quad bike things, and it was lying on top of him. Well, she immediately ran to his rescue, and she said she actually was able to lift that vehicle off him, which she couldn't have done otherwise. But she did hurt herself in the process. She hurt her back. So in her session, this went back to a time where she had suffered an injury in another lifetime. I think that particular case, she was a protector of some royal family, and she got injured helping prevent something. So it tied back to then, and the trauma that happened in that lifetime when she died, that trauma carried through into this lifetime, and it was able to be dissolved because the energy went back to, like, in a way, she was taken back to clear that pattern of energy from the man she was then, so it was not brought forward. And it was changing the pattern, releasing the trauma that he'd said, oh, I'm never going to help anyone again. And yet she was driven to help people in this lifetime. So there was a lot of healing. She was then, she was just lying on my short sofa here during this process. And I thought, how can you be comfortable? But she insisted she was. And she sat up and she said, I've got no pain. So I don't know how long that lasted, but it cleared the story behind why she was injuring herself when she was helping people now. So
isn't that fascinating?
And it can be this lifetime as well, where we take on fears or what people have said to us. And
Yes, absolutely. And like you say, it can go back lifetimes. And those people that are born with birthmarks, and often those birthmarks relate to the last life, where you may have a knife mark as a birthmark, or shrapnel on the face, or the red marks on the face. It's quite fascinating how it can show up in the body from the previous time, because the cellular memory remembers.
Yes.
Yes.
So this is another way of clearing it, which is usually done in those quantum healing hypnosis type sessions too. And this is just another way to deal with it, because all of those are all around us. They're not past. Our future ones are not really in the future. It's all around us now. And they can be cleared, the energy pattern that shows up in our energy field. Those stories, if you like, can be cleared.
I'd just like to go back, Lani, to those bubbles you played with as a child. Do you know what they were about when you were up on the craft, or when you had your friends come to see you? What do you think those coloured bubbles were?
Well, I think at the start when I saw them, I was simply a child playing with these, with my friend who was invisible to everyone else. And I felt they were getting me tuned in, back to tuning into seeing things from different dimensions. That's what it feels like now. They were different colours. They were able to be used. It was like I could throw them to the tall lady and she would throw them back. I didn't get any understanding beyond that, really, but they were helping me to see into that dimension. And so
Beautiful.
when I felt what suddenly appeared around me, which in our terms now, probably I was teleported, transported into a vessel above Earth, because I was looking at the star field, and there were different screens. You see, then I'm talking about mid to late 1950s, before we had television. So I had no idea how to describe them. They were just round windows, that there were beings there working on things. I had no concept of what it was.
I think you're right.
And now, of course, in the Omega group sessions, they talk about us, they take us into a dimension or a place that's called the Station of Light. Now, I asked, what does it look like? And at one point I saw like a gigantic type, you know, those of us who have things like our Sky Tower here in Auckland. The Sydney is a black tower in Sydney. Probably all around the world there are these tall spires. And we've probably seen sci-fi shows that have some of the space stations similar to that. So it's like that, but it doesn't feel it's really long. It feels like it has a lot of space in it, but we're always gathered into an initial receiving space where we adjust our frequencies. We're sort of there in our, I would call it our light body, but we're still connected to the physical body. And so energy we receive while we're in that station of light, the body can be instantly receiving it. So in a way, we're receiving healing and clearance there. And I receive a lot. I listen to the latest sessions every morning, and I receive a lot of help myself through that. So that's like, yeah, the station of light exists beyond our atmosphere, but it is, I don't know whether it exists between our satellite moon or not, but it's still out there observing beyond the field of the satellites we've put up, of course. Yeah, so there's it's an interesting, and even if it's only a concept, it's a concept that lifts us into a different field of existence, helping again as our expansion.
That's beautiful. And I love that station of light term.
Yes,
Absolutely beautiful. Do you
yes.
consider it a place or a ship, or is it both?
Yeah, I consider it to be a vessel, a ship that's been there for many, many generations. Oh, they've told us it was there before and as Earth was first populated, first began.
Wow.
And so many of us may have been in such vessels or stations and come down to Earth and planted seeds, planted invisible spheres of information and energy to be accessed when the time is right for people to understand more concepts. And maybe some of the inventions that often are suppressed from us are revealed from these almost time capsules.
Yeah. Beautiful.
Granted.
And I know there are time capsules around the earth or over the earth, whichever way you want to look at the earth.
Yes.
And often I think it's a frequency band that allows a certain person to access that information. So that's fascinating. So there are places around the earth that have bubbles of information that is accessible to some.
Yes,
Am I hearing you
I
correctly?
feel so. Yes, I feel so. And I've seen this when I've gone into trance states to go into various lives I've experienced as part of, why I'm here. And I've been a different form of being and taken some similar devices and until the right people activate them and they get the
Wow.
knowledge to create. So, I think it goes on everywhere in planets, on planets.
Sounds like truth, Lani. It
Good,
certainly resonates with me.
good. Oh,
Beautifully
wonderful.
said. Would you like to speak about, as if you haven't already, but the higher aspects of reality, how you see these realms and the interaction of all it is? It's a big question, but I know you can handle it.
Oh, okay. Well, currently, from where I am at now, and that's evolving, I've gone into places that we would call crystalline or light cities, coexisting with us. It's just that we can get glimpses of them at times when we're in higher states of consciousness. And generally, they are with people who are working in harmony with creation, harmony with one another. There's no monetary system. It's all simply created when it's needed. There are places where perhaps some of us, well, speaking from experience, I was training younger people how to use their sight, their clear audience, all of those clairvoyance and all of those attributes that we are learning, many of us now, training them to not interfere with other people, to not spy on people, but to use them in the right way. And this happens in some of these areas of the light cities. And I'm feeling these areas of existences like these cities of light, different types of transportation, although our sci-fi writers have glimpses of it, I feel, and to try to portray it, inspiring us until it gets confused and drops into warfare again. So that doesn't exist in these types of civilizations that are around us and that we have probably known from other planetary or other galaxies where we've been. I feel also that there do exist inner Earth existences, and especially under the oceans, within the waters. Civilizations that have been there when Earth was covered with more water, and they still exist, helping encourage civilization, perhaps working with the energy of water. So from time to time, I feel certain that some of us beings can go within those places, gather information, or present what's going on around us, present it to these other civilizations for assistance or as observations. So I have no confirmation of any of this, but it's part of the reality that I feel exists around us. And we're
And I think you're
moving.
right. I think you're 100% right, Lani. There are water beings, there are beings under the earth. It all makes total sense. And when you think of the consciousness of water and being surrounded by that more than as we are on land, they're probably fairly highly evolved people.
Yes, exactly. Yes, and from different dimensions, different galaxies, but coming here, and they're certainly the ones I'm aware of are not here to take us over. They're here to help.
Thank
Earth
you.
is still being established. Earth is still being established. Earth was intended to be more like these crystalline type cities of light that we're aware of, and that beings from other areas could come to receive a greater field of light, to adjust their bodies to it, and then move on to other areas elsewhere in other galaxies or other planets that are in the galaxies. I haven't really explored that. So
fascinating. We all have fascinating stories, lives, knowings and visions,
yes,
which makes life so exciting.
yes.
How do you see, Lani, these times playing out now for humanity in this cosmic dance? We're using cosmic a lot tonight, which is lovely. Seems to be the theme. And how best do you see we can navigate these times within this cosmic dance?
Well, for me, it's all about being consciously present as we are in the body form, but consciously connected to, if you like, our purpose. And that's a higher purpose indeed, a higher consciousness mission, to bring in and expand consciousness, to uplift the general field. It's like observing the layer of control and fear that people are existing in. And there's the potential for everyone to step beyond that and access a higher field. I mean, we know currently some people just don't want to know anything about what's been going on the last several years. And then suddenly they might come across information that rings a bell, and I think, oh my goodness. And I do feel that generally we're being on the right track. We're being pulled into this higher field of consciousness. At some point, it's all got to break open. And I feel the extra light that has been coming into the planet is part of that disintegration of the control of fear, is letting more light in to us. And many more people are responding to that. I don't know how long it'll take. I also feel it's a part of helping those of us here on Earth to reinstate a longer term of life here. We were intended, our human body was intended to live for hundreds of years until it got contaminated, if you like, using that word again. And so there seems to be a greater field around to help clear all that and open us up to that. So I feel positive. I have a positive feeling about what's happening on Earth.
That's lovely, Lani. Thank you. That's so uplifting. Do you have any messages you wish to give us at this time, or anything you've gleaned from your beautiful team and spirit that could help us at this time?
Well, I think we really simply want to say continue to be curious, to explore the quantum field of consciousness, and to remember who you truly are. Remember that the soul, people have said to me, oh, but the soul's contaminated, the soul's been damaged. I go back to the point of origin principle. Connect always to the original blueprint, the higher point of everything. So continue to be inspired, and we are here because you are all consciously intelligent beings. We are here to offer you the assistance and remind you. You all remember so much more than often you can express in your words. And yet this is truly why you are here, why you are continuously being inspired with new energy systems. Have no fear about energy systems or control or breakdown of systems. As you know, the technical devices that have been uplifted into around your planet, they are all able to be accessed by a quantum intelligent field, because many of the technicians who are working on such devices that you use do have the inner understanding and knowing, and so that creates pathways within what you might call physical technology. So have no fear of this. Eliminate that control system and be open to experience your true presence on soul, on earth, and as the soul on earth. So we thank you for this opportunity to bring this through in this way, through the words, through the energy presented in this session, through the vehicle that you have offered. Thank you indeed.
Thank you too. We honour you greatly for coming through Lani and with Lani to speak these beautiful words of hope and wisdom. And may we all, those that choose, start to connect to our higher selves, beings and friends in spirit. Thank you so much. That's just beautiful.
Yeah. We
Thank
all do
you.
it in our own way, indeed. Yeah.
Thank you, Lani.
Thank
Before we open up to a few questions, and we won't keep you too long, what do you offer people now and how can they find you?
Okay, I offer the personal energy multi-dimensional field sessions, PEMF, on my website, omegacommunications.co.nz. Just put that in the search engine. You'll find the weekly Omega Group energy sessions on YouTube, Omega Communications, and you'll see my symbol, the circle with a triangle inside it and a line waving throughout, because Omega is used a lot by different companies and groups. Also on Facebook, I have Omega Communications. There's a link there for more information about the personal sessions available. There's an option to pay by credit card through the PayPal system, or if you have a New Zealand bank account, direct bank linkage, and just contacting me by email. There's an option to give your choice just as a thank you for anything that I offer or have presented to you. I don't like to limit things by saying, oh, you have to pay this amount or that amount. So it's all available. So yes, omegacommunications.co.nz is the website. Or you can email me at Lani, Lani, at omegacommunications.co.nz. So, yeah, hope to
Thank
talk
you,
to
Lani.
you.
Thank you, Lani. Are you happy to take one or two questions before we close?
Sure, if I can answer them.
Thank you. So if anyone would love to ask Lani a question, please raise your little yellow hand and we can ask her what she would like.
Hello, Jude and Lani. Thank you very much for such a fascinating presentation and information. My question is, how can one tap into the portal that you mentioned it using your symbol?
Okay, you could find the symbol on the website, of course, as well, and a little
Sure.
information about it. But you would need to open your energy field to it and see it as a multidimensional framework, if you like, and framed as energy lines. So it's not like a metallic grid, it's an energy field that you could open your heart to and step in to. Give it a go. I'd love to hear from you, your experiences, and with the purpose of accessing energy and information, right, or whatever. Or you could use it to access, perhaps you wanted healing for yourself or something. But that is one way. The other way is simply to join in or listen to one of my weekly transmissions, the group ones, and listening to those, you're lifted into that same dimension that energy symbol will take you into the station of light, into another field. And some people within the sessions, they're actually taken somewhere else to receive personal information. So they lose, they don't listen, they don't hear the words that I'm speaking, but they enter into the energy field of it. I think you would find it very easy to use that symbol because I can feel it. I can sort of see it in your forehead, in your mind's eye. You've been doing that?
Yes, I guess you're very much correct. I
Yes.
will look it up in YouTube to follow these sessions. I also have another question, and that is, I do not know if I heard correctly. Were you in Findhorn, or you just met people or friends that were there?
At Findhorn?
Yes.
Yes. No. There were several people involved in establishing Findhorn, from what I know. And two of the people, gosh, I've forgotten their names because this was when I was about 10 years old. We met the people who had come over from England and they came to New Zealand and I think they established, perhaps it was a healing centre in a city called Napier in the North Island of New Zealand. But they bought this land on the shores of Lake Taupo in the centre of the North Island of New Zealand with the idea of setting up a meditation centre, which they did. So I didn't meet, I probably did meet them when I was a child, but it didn't have an impact on me. But at that stage, the centre at Tauhara was being built, but it was based, first of all, on the principles of Findhorn and accessing that higher spiritual realm to establish a higher energy place. Yeah.
Do you follow any of these, I would not say methods, but steps on your meditation group or within your group?
No, I'm solely tuning into what the beings bring through to us to help us clear ourselves and expand our consciousness, to sort of connect. And they talk about us as being holders of light, of being the antennas here on Earth, to bring in the higher frequency pattern into the ordinary population. So while I looked into many different methods and ways, for me they were stepping stones to connect in with the energy that I was to bring in to people.
Okay. Thank you very much. It was, and I think it is, and it will be fascinating. Really, I will love to meet you sometime in the upcoming future.
Right.
I felt the same type of energy, so to speak, that
Yes.
you felt. It's been a
Yes.
very pleasant communication. Thank you very much from my heart.
Oh, thank you, Lou. Yes, I didn't consciously, thank you, Andy. I didn't consciously do it, but I'm sure we were all enveloped in the field because we were tuning in, right, Jude? Yeah, to
Absolutely.
the
Absolutely.
energy of the group. So I'm sure you are already experiencing it. It's interesting, isn't it? Yeah.
Thank you, Lou. Andy has put in the chat to please pass on his regards to you. He would like to ask a question, but his internet is very wobbly, as
Oh,
some of us are experiencing in New Zealand.
yes.
So he wants to send his regards for
Thank you,
the wonderful
Andy.
evening.
Oh, thank you. And oh, yes, you could send me a text or something, or email or something, or chat on. I don't know if you use Messenger or WhatsApp or anything, but who knows? There's lots of methods. Isn't it wonderful that we can connect worldwide in this way? I was really excited when I was working with a company, and the boss was quite inspired when the internet first came here to Auckland, 96, 97. And I had the company we went with was called iHug, love the name, and we had a satellite dish. And I was one of the first people to connect in a household. I had a satellite dish put up on my house to receive the internet, 96, 97. And we had chat rooms called ICQ. Did any of you use that? Yeah, right. And they were great chat rooms. But anyway, I had intermittent reception through the satellite connection. So I rang the internet provider, iHug, and they said, oh, just a minute, we'll get the techies to check. And they said, well, it's very strange because you are not receiving the internet through our computer systems, you're receiving it directly through the satellite. And I thought, oh, what's going on here? This is some intervention from a higher level. I just saw it, as symbolic. But I see everything like that.
That's so
Nice to
cool.
enjoy, isn't it? Isn't it fun?
Lani, did you have any stories with you and Lee? Lee mentioned there were a few stories you shared together. Do you remember any of them?
Oh gosh, Lee, I need you to jog my memory about something.
I'm
Maybe Lee could help.
I'm the same. I think because when we go into those spaces, we're so in the moment and shift into other places that bringing that back into this reality is quite difficult.
It sure is.
Yeah.
Yes. But I know you've been part of what I do for all these years, since late 80s,
Yeah.
early
Whatever.
90s, maybe. I moved into the house. I built my house in 1990, moved into it at the end of 1990. And you were around about that time, I'm sure.
The the weekly meetings and meditations are just incredible. And when you participate in those and you don't think about the words, don't put any focus on the words, just completely relax and allow the energy to work, it takes you into some incredible places. It really, really does transform. Yeah, it's beautiful.
Yes, we inspired each other, I'm sure. We were
Mm.
wonderful memories. Yeah.
Lani, I want to thank you for an amazing evening with some absolute gems and pearls of wisdom and understanding. Thank you for all that you are and all that you do, and also to your beautiful team that work with you. Thank you so much for an
Oh,
incredible evening.
thank you. This has been a great experience, and I've enjoyed being with you all. And you just asked all the right questions to get me talking on and on and on. Oh, I
Well,
love
I'm pleased I asked all the right questions. I'd hate to ask all the wrong ones, so I guess I can chalk one up. But thank you so much, Lani. You've been an absolute delight, and
you.
I would love to get to know you better.
Thank you, everyone. Cherry and Elaine and everyone that I can't see, but I know you're there. Thank you so much. You're all part of this. You inspired Jude to bring all these questions through. Wow.
Thank
Mm,
you. Thank you, Lani.
thank
So
you.
if you are watching this on YouTube, remember to like, share, and subscribe. And as always, peace on earth. It starts with you. It starts with me. So good night, everyone, and God bless.